Hey everyone, Nigel and Luke here, and welcome to another edition of Crimes of the Week International. Representatives from Australia's Victoria Police say that they are on the hunt for an unknown male suspect this week, following a chilling attempted kidnapping targeting a young woman. The incident took place at around 9:15 p.m. on March 19th, when the victim, identified only as a 20-year-old woman, was on her way to her uncle's house in the Melbourne suburb of Vernet. The young woman had just gotten off a bus from her university and was walking along Thames Boulevard when out of nowhere she was grabbed from behind by a man who was hiding out of sight near some bushes. He then began trying to drag her towards the road. Harrowing footage shows the terrifying moment it all unfolded, as the woman can be heard screaming. Luckily, she was able to break free from the man's grip, though it's easy to imagine how things could have gone differently. As you can see, the whole thing happened incredibly fast. In fact, the girl's uncle, Ahmed Sadi, heard the commotion outside and ran out to help, but by the time he got there, it was over, and the unknown attacker had fled. While the situation was a lucky close call, as you might imagine, it doesn't feel that way for the 20-year-old victim. According to Ahmed, his niece's sense of security and safety has been completely shattered. She no longer feels comfortable taking the bus to school, even though the stop is just 60 meters, or about 200 feet from his house. At the time of this recording, the identity of the attempted kidnapper remains unknown, though Victoria Police say that they are doing their best to track him down. The suspect is believed to be in his late teens or early 20s, and is described as being about 160 centimeters tall, with a slim build and short dark hair. Anyone with information about the case can either reach out to police directly or anonymously through Crime Stoppers. Officials in Paris, France say that it's a miracle no one was killed this week, following a wild police chase involving an alleged drunk driver that ended in a dramatic multi-vehicle pileup. The whole thing started shortly before 6 a.m. on March 22nd, when officers from the Paris police attempted to conduct a vehicle check on a black BMW that had run a red light. However, instead of pulling over, the man behind the wheel, identified only as a 30-year-old man, refused to comply and took off. A chase quickly began, one which involved 3 different police vehicles. The pursuit quickly reached dangerously high speeds, especially considering this all happened right in the heart of the capital. It wasn't long before things nearly came to a tragic end. Harrowing footage released this week shows the moment that the BMW driver, who is alleged to have been drunk, lost control of the car at the corner of Avenue de Maine and Boulevard de Montparnasse in the 15th arrondissement. The vehicle slams into a traffic light before almost immediately being crashed into by a police vehicle following closely behind. This alone was quite dramatic. However, the situation was still far from over, as police officers raced to pull the driver from his vehicle and place him and his 2 passengers under arrest. The 2 other police cars, whose drivers evidently didn't see the crash, joined the pileup. While 13 people were injured as a result of the incident, 10 of them police officers, somehow no one was seriously hurt or killed. However, looking at the footage, it's easy to imagine how things could have been different. According to representatives from the Paris police, all of their officers have now been released from hospital, and the driver and both passengers, ages 22 and 19, were taken into custody. So far, none of the names of those involved in the incident have been released. Authorities in the Thai province of Trang say that 2 teenage boys are in custody this week following the brutal murder of a man, a crime which they not only allegedly carried out, but that they also filmed and posted to social media. According to reports, the whole thing began at around 8:30 a.m. on March 25th, when a mushroom collector in Kantang district made a gruesome discovery while searching through a local rubber plantation. As he was walking through a section of trees, he stumbled across the body of a man simply lying out in the open. He had been shot at least twice in the head, though 4 bullet casings were found at the scene. The man was later identified as 33-year-old Rungrang Nakwang. Almost immediately, police suspected that the case was related to drugs because Nakwang was previously known to them both as a drug user and dealer. It turned out that authorities were correct, though how they learned this was quite disturbing. It happened after they were alerted to a video gaining traction on Instagram, which appeared to show Nakwang's murder and the aftermath. The footage had been posted by a 14-year-old boy, and a caption alongside the post read, quote, "Killed one." Upon further investigation, police managed to track down the boy who had posted the footage, along with another 14-year-old who is believed to be his accomplice. The two teens allegedly confessed that they had indeed killed Nakwang because of a dispute over drugs. 2 handguns were apparently seized at the time of their arrests. As you might imagine, the crime disturbed both investigators and members of the general public, especially because of the chilling demeanor and lack of concern displayed by the suspects. Apparently, this attitude was similarly shown by one of their friends, who upon hearing of their arrests made his own post on social media, stating, quote, "Take care, my beloved friends. We will always be friends, and I will always wait for your return." At the time of this recording, the suspects remain in custody and have been charged with intentional murder. However, because they are young offenders, police say that their punishment, if convicted, will be at the discretion of government officials. Representatives from a legal advocacy group have put out an urgent warning to women this week after a Ukrainian OnlyFans model was found with brutal injuries at the side of a road in the United Arab Emirates following her disappearance under disturbing circumstances for more than a week. The case began on March 11th when family members of 20-year-old Maria Kovalchuk raised the alarm after she failed to board a scheduled flight to Thailand. After doing some digging, loved ones learned that Maria had last been heard from 2 days earlier, when she said that she was planning to attend a party in the city of Dubai. The 20-year-old OnlyFans creator told friends she had met, quote, 2 men from the modeling business who had invited her to attend an event. The exact nature of that event has not been confirmed, but it's now believed that Maria had no idea what she was getting into. A full 10 days after Maria disappeared, she was found dumped at a roadside, suffering from horrifying injuries. The 20-year-old had several broken limbs, a fractured spine, and was unable to speak. Almost all of her personal items, including her phone and identity documents, were also gone. In statements this week, representatives from the UK-based legal advocacy group detained in Dubai said that they fear that Maria was an unwitting participant in a kind of sickening phenomenon known as a porta-potty party. According to the group, these are events held by extremely wealthy men in Dubai who lure young women in with the promise of large amounts of money in exchange for a night of fun. Once the women arrive, though, they are required to perform disgusting and degrading sexual acts, including being used as human toilets. This is apparently only the tip of the iceberg, though. According to reports, the abuse these women are subjected to can include everything from being brutally beaten and having their head shaved, to being hung up by metal hooks and having their teeth knocked out. All of this is allegedly done for the entertainment of the ultra-wealthy men who organize and attend the events. This nightmarish scenario stands in stark contrast to the image that Dubai and the United Arab Emirates more broadly have tried to present to the world. Over the past few years, the Middle Eastern nation has spent countless sums of money positioning itself as a glamorous, modern, crime-free paradise. According to the advocacy group, this is largely a myth, especially when it comes to the safety of women. In an interview this week, the head of the organization, Rhoda Sterling, explained, quote, "Over the years, I've worked with numerous women who have been raped, drugged, assaulted, or abducted in the UAE, and then treated as criminals themselves when they tried to report it. Tragically, the circumstances echo a well-established pattern in the UAE, where serious incidents involving women are rarely reflected in official statistics, and alleged perpetrators often face no consequences due to influence, connections, or official indifference. It is not uncommon in the UAE for women to be lured under false pretenses and then coerced or even forced into unwanted sexual acts. Those who commit such abuses often face no consequences, while victims are left in extremely vulnerable positions, frequently threatened with police complaints or arrest by influential individuals if they attempt to report the crime. Indeed, it seems that officials in Dubai have already suggested that Maria is responsible for her own injuries. Local police claimed in a statement very quickly after she was found, quote, "A comprehensive investigation has revealed that she sustained serious injuries after entering a restricted construction site alone and falling from a height." Maria's family members, meanwhile, as well as many others, believe that the police and government are simply covering up what really happened. However, given the track record with law enforcement in the country, it seems unlikely any further investigation will be carried out. As for Maria, she is currently recovering in a hospital. Despite only clinging to life when she was initially found and requiring at least 4 surgeries, it's suspected that she will survive. Officials from South Korea's Seoul High Court say that a man has been officially sentenced to prison time this week after he was convicted of a series of violent sex crimes, in part thanks to some pretty amazing police work. According to local media sources, the 24-year-old perpetrator had already been accused of multiple sexual offenses against a former girlfriend and of statutory rape of a minor. However, there was another victim who police were worried they weren't going to be able to get justice for. The woman, who was also a former partner of the sexual predator, had tried to break off her relationship with him in the spring of 2024 when things turned violent. After forcibly confining her for hours, the 24-year-old attacked and raped her. While there technically was footage of the incident, the security camera was angled in a way where it hadn't actually captured the attack. Or so authorities initially thought. You see, while carefully analyzing the video, investigators discovered that the sexual assault had been partially captured in a reflection on a washing machine in the room. When this footage and its audio were enhanced and brought forward as evidence, the 24-year-old eventually admitted to what he had done. This week, the man, whose name has not been released, was sentenced to 7 years in prison for a variety of offenses, including sexual assault, illegal confinement, and sexual intercourse with a minor. In addition to the sentence, officials say that he will have to spend a further 7 years on electronic monitoring upon his release, and will also be banned from working at facilities for juveniles, children, or disabled people for this same period. Following the decision this week, the prosecutor's office commended the investigative team involved in the case for their incredible police work. Authorities in the Brazilian state of Paraná say that they are investigating a deeply tragic and unsettling case this week after a grandmother and granddaughter were found dead under chilling circumstances inside of a home, and an ominous message appears to be the only real clue. The whole thing started sometime on March 22nd, when the son of 53-year-old Marley Gomes de Almeida went to visit his mother at her home in the municipality of Jataizinho. When he arrived, he was met with a horrifying scene. In one of the bedrooms there, he found 2 bodies. The first was his mother's, and the second belonged to her 11-year-old granddaughter, Ana Carolina Almeida Anacleto. According to reports, the women were both lying on a bed and had been covered by a duvet. There were unspecified signs of violence to their bodies, blood all over the place, and they both had scarves wrapped tightly around their necks. As if this weren't horrifying enough, it seemed that whoever was responsible for the gruesome situation left behind a message. Written in blood on one of the walls were the misspelled words, "Sorry, Mom." Unfortunately, at the time of this recording, little else is known about the case, and it seems police are still in the preliminary stages of their investigation. They have stated that 2 people were questioned in connection with the killings, though so far have declined to release their names. The only other thing we know right now is that cell phones have been seized from all of the victims' family members, and that these are currently being scoured for evidence and for information. The situation is still developing. Authorities in the French department of Alpes-de-Haute-Provence announced an unsettling update in a highly publicized ongoing investigation this week, revealing that they have now arrested 4 family members in connection with the mysterious disappearance and death of a toddler. The whole case began nearly 2 years ago, back in the summer of 2023, when 2-year-old Emile Soleil vanished from the tiny village of Le Haut-Vernet. The village, which is located in the south of the French Alps, has just over 24 permanent residents. At the time, Emile was staying with family members at his grandparents' second home there while his parents were away. The 2-year-old was last seen late in the afternoon on July 8th by neighbors. At the time, he appeared to be walking by himself in a yellow t-shirt, white shorts, and small hiking shoes. Though he was reported missing that same day and a search was launched, no trace of him could be found. The situation gained widespread public attention, especially when a grim discovery was made about 9 months later. Near the end of March in 2024, a hiker came across a skull and some teeth while walking through a mountainous area just over a mile away from where Emil had last been seen. It was later determined that these remains belonged to the missing boy, and further bone fragments as well as bits of clothing were recovered by investigators. Following the discovery, police announced that they were considering many possibilities as to what happened to Emil. A fall or some kind of accident were initially at the top of the list. However, it wasn't long before authorities started sharing more disturbing theories, among them manslaughter or murder. The case has by no means fallen out of the headlines over the past few months, and has continued to garner a lot of attention in France. However, it seems not a lot of major developments have been released since. Well, that was until this week. On March 25th, it was announced that Emil's maternal grandparents, Philippe and Anne Verovini, had been arrested along with 2 of their adult children. All 4 of the family members are now being held and questioned on suspicion of voluntary homicide and concealment of a corpse. Unfortunately, so far, very little has been revealed in terms of what actually led to this week's arrests. What we do know, though, is that they came after renewed searches of the area and village around where Emil disappeared. In addition to seizing an SUV owned by the Verovinis and a horse trailer, investigators earlier this month reportedly collected a planter box from outside of a local church. That planter box was apparently taken after it was found to have traces of blood on it. Again, it's unclear what all of this means, since police are remaining tight-lipped, but what's also been reported is that Emil's grandfather, Philippe, has been considered a possible person of interest in the case since early on. According to reports, the 59-year-old was previously questioned in connection with a physical and sexual abuse scandal that happened at a Catholic school where he worked in the 1990s. On top of this, French media have reported on the seemingly strange dynamics of the Verovini family. According to these reports, Philippe and Anne have 10 children ranging in age from their 20s to just 10 years old, who were raised at their rural property a few miles outside of the city of Marseille. Neighbors say the family has always been secluded and that all of the children were homeschooled. Emil's mother, Marie, is apparently the oldest of the children, and her husband, Emil's father, was previously known to police. According to local media, the entire family has been questioned before about their, quote, extreme right-wing views, and Emil's father specifically was arrested in 2018 for a, quote, attack on foreigners. At the time of this recording, the mysterious and devastating case remains under investigation. We'll be sure to update you as things continue to unfold. Authorities in the Indian state of Uttar Pradesh say that a woman and her secret lover are in custody this week and are expected to face charges after they were accused of carrying out a sickening murder plot against her husband, a crime that was allegedly planned for months. The whole thing began back on February 24th, when the victim, Saurabh Rajput, flew from the UK back to his home in the Indian city of Meerut. According to reports, Saurabh, who is a former merchant navy officer, had been working in London since 2023, but made trips back as often as he could to see his wife Muskan and his 6-year-old daughter. This was supposed to be one of those visits, and apparently he had booked the trip back to celebrate family birthdays. However, what Saurabh didn't know was that he was walking into a trap. Police now say that for several years, Saurabh's wife Muskan had been having an affair with a man named Sahil Shukla. According to local media sources, Muskan and Sahil were former classmates back in elementary school, but had reconnected over WhatsApp sometime in 2019. That same year, Saurabh and Muskan celebrated the birth of their daughter. However, for reasons that are unclear, Muskan started to become more and more dissatisfied with their life together. This continued until November of 2024, when she allegedly decided she would get out of her marriage by planning Saurabh's murder. Police allege that in order to rope her lover into the plan, Muskan came up with a bizarre scheme. Knowing that Sahil's mother had died several years ago and that he was deeply superstitious, she set up a Snapchat account under another phone number and began messaging him, pretending she was Sahil's mother communicating with him from the afterlife. And posing as the dead mother, she began suggesting that she wanted Sahil to kill her husband. If you're thinking that makes absolutely no sense, you're not alone, but apparently it worked on Sahil, because according to reports, on the night of March 4th, Sahil agreed to take part in Muskan's chilling plan. After drugging Sarab with sedatives Muskan apparently obtained by faking an anxiety attack, she and Sahil allegedly stabbed him more than a half a dozen times. Once he was dead, the pair waited until the following morning before going out and buying a 60-gallon water drum and some concrete. They then meticulously cut up the body, covered it with concrete inside the container, and then took off for a 12-day holiday. The horrifying crime was only discovered after the pair returned, and Muskan apparently confessed to her mother about what she had done. From the sounds of it, her parents immediately turned her in, though by this point, they weren't the only ones that knew something was wrong. Though images had continued to be posted to Sarab's social media accounts during this time, his family contacted police after they were unable to reach him, and Muskan was acting cagey. Authorities now say that she and Sahil were making these social media posts with his phone and sending messages to make it seem like he was still alive. On March 18th, police recovered Sarab's remains from the apartment that he rented for his wife and daughter. Around the same time, Muskan and Sahil were placed under arrest. While very little in the way of a motive behind all of this has currently been released, it's said that both Sahil and Muskan were heavy drug users. And even though Muskan is believed to have been the primary culprit behind the chilling plot, a later search of Sahil's home reportedly turned up unsettling satanic graffiti and drawings suggesting he was obsessed with black magic. Though the pair won't be facing formal charges until the investigation is complete, loved ones of Sarab's have not been shy about sharing their demands that justice be served. These sentiments have been echoed even by Muskan's own parents, who told local media sources that their son-in-law was a good man. Muskan's mother said in part, quote, "We demand justice and want her to be hanged till death," while her father stated, quote, "My daughter killed her husband. She is unfit for society and a danger to everyone." Before we wrap up, we'd like to take a second to give a huge shout out to everyone who has made it this far into the video. Seriously, thank you so much for watching. If you found today's upload interesting and informative, we'd be honored if you'd consider liking and subscribing, as well as hitting the notification bell and selecting all notifications to stay up to date with our latest releases. If you're looking for additional ways to help support the channel, we'd love to have you join us over on Patreon. Patrons get ad-free and early access to all of our content, as well as 4 additional stories per week for each of our Crimes of the Week and Crimes of the Week International videos. You can learn more at patreon.com/crimezone, where you'll also find some of the fine folks whose names are currently on screen. All that being said, we understand that not everyone has the means to support financially, and that's totally okay. We appreciate every like, sub, share, and comment that you send our way. Once again, thanks so much everyone, and take care.